I grew up as a young lad, being adventurous, going out on my bike and just enjoying being outside. But I always wanted to do something more than was just round the next corner, and the appeal of the army was really that the whole thing of going away, of excitement and having that great big adventure. I think the hardest thing about leaving the army is you're leaving something that you've known very intently for however many years, and that a lot of people don't really understand that, and everyone's experiences of the army will be very different, everyone's experience of Afghanistan will be very different, but the general public, in a sense, have no idea of what soldiers have been through, and I think that just straight away puts up barriers in that there's that not knowing, there's a lack of understanding. To come out and find your own house, find your own job, and really start to do everything for yourself. The army makes it quite easy. When I got married, I went and signed for a house, and that was me. I had a house, you know. When I was on camp, I just went and ate in the cookhouse if I was on duty, and you know, I followed orders. I had to turn up each day, do fitness, do a few duties, and then that was me. You know, it was time to go home. Army life is relatively simple in a lot of ways, and I think the difficulty is that soldiers suddenly find that they're a lot more alone as well. There's not the backup that they have in the army, that the sort of guys around them, and almost a lack of direction from where they've been told what to do at what time and with what kit, to having to make all those decisions for themselves, which is just something completely new. And I think that's what makes the transition quite hard, is going into a life where you're suddenly a lot more of your own person. I think that the media gives a distorted image of what's really going on, in that the army is in and out of the media, and when it's out of the media, people assume that everything's quiet, everything's rosy and good and just carrying on, and then something big will happen, and the army will come back into the focus of the media, and people say, I didn't realise that stuff was still going on. And so I think the greatest help that people can be to ex-soldiers is just to listen to their experiences, but just to chat to them as normal people and ask them about themselves before just jumping in with some question about Afghanistan or where they've been or what they've seen. Just to talk to them, because soldiers will open up in their own time and to the right people. And I think it's just respecting that, you know, there are some stuff that soldiers wouldn't want to cover as soon as they meet you. I think that the greatest support that I had when I left the army really was just from my wife, you know, in that we'd been married while I was in, so she knew what I'd been through, and she knew what I was facing when I came out, and the fact that I had that home life stability of a wife. I was fortunate enough to be able to buy a house when I left, so I had somewhere to live, and I had work that I could go into as well. And just that stability of civilian life to change into was, I think, the most comforting thing and the easiest way to make that transition. But a lot of guys who leave the forces are not that fortunate. They're guys who have come from a rough background or a slightly unsettled background before they join. So when they leave, they have even less of a background to go back to. That they don't necessarily have somewhere definite to go and live, or a job lined up, or any real family support. If they haven't had much family support before they've joined, that's one of the reasons why a lot of guys join, is a lack of family, and they find that within the army. And then when they leave the army, that support network that they've had has gone. And so I think that one of the ways that we can support these people is by almost taking them under our wing and showing them that love. I think that the church is an ideal place to do this, because, you know, there are people that are welcoming within the church, and it's just a matter of breaking down those barriers. A lot of ex-forces personnel end up in a lot of trouble. A lot of them start drinking a lot more than they did when they were in, because they don't have that discipline anymore, that structure, of having to get up and do fitness or going on exercise, all that's taken away from them. So they're trying to fill that gap. And that's why a lot of guys end up homeless. A lot of the prison population have a military background. And a lot of suicides happen as well. There's a really disturbing statistic about the number of suicides after the Falklands from serving personnel is greater than the loss that occurred during the Falklands. And you think that we've now been in Iraq and Afghanistan for 10 years, and that they reckon that this is a time bomb of people bottling up all these emotions, and how are they going to come out in the years to come? And so it's when you see people on the street, that knowing that they might be ex-servicemen, and giving them that time to listen and that support, and just breaking down those barriers.